So I had a whiskey. All right.
Have a great day, guys.
David, keep it
Dallas.
going. You
Dallas.
Shalom Aleichem. Oh, sorry. I got to mute myself. Sorry.
Rabbi Dallas, listen. When Rabbi Sternberg gets on, spotlight him. I don't know if you guys do that in this year or not, but I imagine that you do. So just spotlight him when he comes on. I'm leaving my screen.
Okie dokie. Got it.
Rabbi.
Hazaku Baruch.
Are you in the office?
I'm in the base medrash.
I was going to say, where's your mask?
I'm in my spiritual office right now.
The office of the Lord.
The office of the Lord.
Okay, we'll speak soon.
Oh, yeah. Paging Mayor Bendelstein.
David Magalies.
Yes, sir. Just making sure, like I do all the time, that you're in front of your screen.
You think that I'm like, you think I just do it for the show?
The screen is it's schwarzed out, so you never know if somebody's behind the screen.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. How are we doing today?
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. Looks great out there. Okay, what's happening?
I have to spotlight you. Joe told me. How do I spotlight Rabbi Sternberg? Spotlight video. Let's try that. Okay. Should be good.
Yeah, it should. Okay.
Rabbi Margulies went to the base measures just to hear your Torah.
That's, you see what? That's unbelievable. He's a Rosh Hashiva already, David.
I'll take the Mashgiach position first. I have to get comfortable with it.
Okay.
David, it comes with raising the money.
Which one, the Rosh Hashiva or the Mashgiach?
Any position you have anything to do with yeshivas is going to cost you money. But it's a win-win situation, that's for sure.
All right.
Okay, so let me finish up this piece with you, and then we'll do a little bit on the Parsha, and then we'll call it a week. All right, so we started out with this very fascinating piece of Kfiyah, which is discussing how one is supposed to maintain a discipline over one's Yetzer Hara. So he has a very interesting idea over here. Just one more little paragraph here. He says, "Ubechlal mitzvahs Kfiyah," included in this mitzvah of controlling one's Yetzer Hara, Leos kofa b'dvarim. One should try to impress with words, or b'kol mini kfiyos, with all other forms of impressions. Kakol habob, in other words, anything that you have available to try to impress something upon someone, you have to use it. In other words, there's a mitzvah of, as we said many times, that the Torah wants that a Jew is responsible for other Jews. You can't just focus in on yourself. We're not a self-centered religion. We're all family, and what happens to one, right? We're one for one, one for all. That's it. We're all part of one group over here, and therefore, just as I need to try to put my life together, I have to try to help others put their lives together. But this is what he's going to talk about. Very interesting idea. You see how he was thinking ahead of his times. And he says we have to use everything at our means to try to impress upon the good, how a person should live a good life. Vorachat tzaddikim yishma, should keep the ways of tzaddikim. V'yimshach yado me'asos kol ran, to refrain from doing things which are harmful, like it says in the Gemara Baba Basra. Kofan ala tzedakah. The community has the responsibility and the option to force someone to give tzedakah. If you're a member of the community, then you are obligated to maintain the understandings of the community, and one of them is that the heads of the community can force people to donate to what they understand to be charitable needs, and each one pays according to their means. V'zeh mitzvahs tochacha, like he says very clearly over here, this is the mitzvah of what we call tochacha, rebuking someone, giving someone clear advice. Now, there's a very, we translate the word tochacha to rebuke someone, but it's very, Rabbi Chaim Shmulevitz, who's Rosh Yeshiva in the Mir, he points out that the word tochacha comes from the word to prove something to someone. Mochiach means to prove something. Those tochacha is, we're not just looking to yell at someone. That's not the objective over here, it's just to yell. The idea is to try to demonstrate to the person the veracity of what you're trying to point out to him, so the person will want to do that. We're trying to show him how this is correct. Well, mitzvahs mochoh, and then there's a mitzvah over here also to try to point out if someone's doing something wrong. If you're capable of doing that. V'hinei says Moshe Rabbeinu olav shalom tziva lo Yoshua, like Moshe told Yoshua, famous idea. V'amlo told Makel, take a stick, v'akeal kat katam, and hit them on their heads. V'amru, like it says also in the Gemara in Ksubas, it says Zrok mora b'talmidim. One should try to throw a certain fear into the talmidim. V'chein yesh kama dvorim. There are many, many situations that Peleh always points out. Listen to this idea over here. Shemidina the Gemara, according to the way the Gemara understands it. Chiyuva ramya, there's a responsibility, an obligation, even he's saying lahakos, to apply bodily, reprimanding, b'shotim, with a stick, v'ligor ben azif, and to speak very sharply, k'rei leyasher ta'am, in order to keep people in line. Now listen to what he says, though. Very fascinating, very far-sighted. Avalani Omer, the Peleh Yoetz says, but I say, shekamosh le'inyan refuas haguf, just like the Gemara brings down in a number of cases remedies, what we call homeopathic remedies. The Gemara has pages in certain Masechtas about remedies for certain illnesses, and it's brought, Tosas brings down, and the Marshal brings down, and the Gemara's over there, that those refuahs are no longer applicable. And if someone would follow the advice of the Gemara, they might be killing themselves even. You're not allowed to follow the medicinal advice of the Gemara, because the Gemara says, it says, Nishtano Ateva, that people's natures have changed. How that is, I don't know. But what worked as medicine back then does not work necessarily today. And on the contrary, like I say, Tosas points out certain things that were considered good are very poisonous today, and vice versa, Like, for example, the Gemara back in the day, they didn't. One of the famous ones is that washing mayim achronim. So Tosas points out again. Tosas mentions that the necessity is not so stringent now, because they had back then, they had a certain type of assault which would blind the person. We don't have that anymore. Or other things, leaving water out in the open, the Gemara brings down that you can't do that and you can't drink from it. Tosas says that that's not such an issue today. So we see that there are certain Gemaras that you say times have changed, but you have to know when and who. Now that's Tosas. It's not for anybody just to go around saying that. But anyway, he points out over here that there are certain Gemaras which the Gemara brings down, which are, like we say, homeopathic medicines. And he says, Shekamoshi le'inyan refuas haguf, just like when it comes to medicine, nishtano hadoros, the generations have changed, v'atvoyim, v'arefuas, and so too our natures have changed, and therefore the medicines have changed. That which was considered, like we say, medicine back then, today would be considered, malpractice. Those medicines which were beneficial back in the day, Ein ben molach, today they don't work. And sometimes even the opposite. So this is what he says over. He says, Kain le'inyan refuas hanefesh. He says the same thing applies to when it comes to healing the soul. He says, Nishtano hadoros, the generations have changed. U'bedoros halalu, and in our world, that he's talking about the early 1800s even, saying the chutzpah yizga, that there's such a brazenness in the world, there's such a rebelliousness in the world. Ein mekablin morus, coming down with a tough hand is not the way to deal with the situation. And doing that will make the person even more and more recalcitrant. So if you're going to do it that way, it's a way to get the person to rebel in the country. That's a prescription for rebelliousness. Eli says, what's the way to do it? It says, Lo yichva osem ela b'dvarim toviv. If you want to impress somebody, you have to talk nicely to people. That's the first thing you have to be. You have to talk. When we see when Yaakov came to Laban's community and he wanted to point out something to the shepherds, he saw that the shepherds were not flocking their sheep; they were just lying down, whatever. So the first word he used, he said, was "achai," my brothers. In other words, when he introduced himself, he called himself "achai," you're my brothers, "achi, achi, achi ata," you're my brother. And once you do that, so then the person's open to hearing you. If you're just going to come out and start yelling at somebody, then he's going to turn a deaf ear to you. But if you start out and you say, you're achi ata, you're my brother, so then that's a whole different relationship. Ela b'dvarim tovim, you have to talk nicely to somebody. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I heard this years and years and years ago. It was such an intelligent idea. But the person was discussing, so let's say, he was talking about tefillin specifically. He said, if you're trying to impress upon somebody the importance of putting on tefillin, let's say the person hasn't done it. He said, if you're just going to talk about tefillin, he said, that person's going to turn a deaf ear to you. He said, because he understands that all you're interested in is that I should put on tefillin. But I'm not interested in putting on tefillin. So the only way you'll be able to make an impression on somebody is if that person feels that you care about me. If you're interested in me, and then you feel that if I would put on tefillin, that will be helpful to me, then the person will be much, much more receptive. But if he just gets the impression that all you want him to do is to keep Shabbos, or to keep kosher, or to put on tefillin, or tzitzis, or daven, whatever it is, then you're not really interested in me. You're just interested in getting me to daven. But what is that? I'm not. What will impress somebody is if he sees that you really care about me. If you care about me, and then you feel what will be so helpful to me will be the davening, the tefillin, the Shabbos, the kosher, and all that, then the person will be much, much more open to want to hear those suggestions. But first you have to develop a relationship with the person and to see that the person has to sense that you care about him and not about that he should do the mitzvahs. That's not the way to go about it, is that he should sense that you're interested in him as a person. And then once he sees that, then he'll be much more open to your recommendations. So that's what he's telling us over. You can talk to them, but dvarim tovim, you say nice things to the person. Rakim, soft, umetukim, sweet. Kulei hai v'ulai. So then, if that's the way you'll speak to the person, Hashemeya yishma, then the person's open to hearing you. He's not going to, turn a deaf ear. Again, like I once heard from someone, Rav Simcha Wasserman, Zechron Baruch, who was Rav Chanan Wasserman's son. He was speaking. He says again, a similar idea. What's a positive way to get somebody to want to be receptive? He says, the metaphor he gave was, he said there was a competition between the wind and the sun, how to get this person to take off his coat. So the wind starts blowing and blowing and blowing, and the person, on the contrary, he's holding onto his coat tighter and tighter and tighter as the wind keeps blowing. But the sun, as it gets warmer and warmer and warmer, he keeps loosening it up, and then he finally takes it off. So that was the metaphor. And as we're going to keep, yelling at somebody, and just keep, yelling and yelling and yelling, the person's just going to get tighter and tighter. He's going to hold on to himself. He's going to become much, much less interested in what you have to say. But if you're warm to the person, then the person will start letting down his barriers and his defense mechanisms, and he'll be much more open. He'll be much more open to what you have to want to offer him, and he won't be so won't put up those barriers anymore. So if you talk nicely to him, things like that, then he'll listen to you. Because soft speech can break hard stuff. And this will take away from him his enmity. You'll save away his enmity from him. And then you'll be able to save somebody. And that'll be the way. So this is this piece over here that I wanted to discuss with you, Kofa. I think it was a very, very fascinating piece. And that's that. Yeah. Two other things I wanted to discuss, unless there are any questions in the meantime. No, we're good? Okay. So then let me just mention this piece on the Parsha a little bit. And then if we have time, we'll go back to this other piece. So you boys are in Chutz La'aretz, they're still learning Shlach. And what the Meshech Chochmah over here is trying to give us an insight into is to get some sort of an understanding. What were the Jewish people thinking and not trusting that Hashem would be able to take them into Eretz Yisrael? What's going on over here after all they saw and experienced? Well, what's going on? So he quotes over it and he says like this. It says, "V'yahas kalei v'sa'am." This is an approach that the Meshech Chochmah has throughout all of Chumash. It's a very interesting idea I wanted to share with you. So it says that Kalev quieted the people towards Moshe. And he said, Alo na'aleh, we can certainly go up. We shouldn't be frightened by these reports of those who are inhabiting Eretz Yisrael. We can definitely go up. That's what Kalev told the Jewish people. So this is what he says. Here's Inyan. He says, what's the idea over here? What's the background? He says, the Jewish people were terrified. Why were they terrified? If we remember in last week's parsha, in Parshas Ba'aloscha, Moshe asked for assistance to help him lead the Jewish people. So Hashem told him to choose 70 elders. And the problem is always that how you're going to find 70, because there are 12 tribes, and that means 10 of them will pick 6 representatives, and 2 of them will only pick 5. So, who's going to volunteer to only have 5 representatives? It's not going to happen. So what happened is that Moshe put up 72 lots. 70 of them had a check on them, and 2 of them were blanks. So what happened was there were 2 members over there, Eldad and Medad, the Medrash brings down, the Chumash tells us, is that they were really picked. But because of their humility, they stayed out. They acted as if they were not the ones that were chosen to be from the 70 members. And therefore, they stayed out. But the Chumash tells us that they were prophesizing. They said prophecy. And what was their prophecy? The Chumash doesn't tell us what their prophecy was. But he brings that over here, and it says again, so the people were terrified. Why? Like the Chumash tells us over there, Eldad and Medad were prophesizing. And the Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin, what was the prophecy of Eldad and Medad? They said, Moshe is going to die. For Yehoshua machnes la'aretz, it's Yehoshua is going to be taking us into Eretz Yisrael. That was the prophecy. For Ra'u, so they saw now what? And the Jews saw when Eldad and Medad said that, Moshe didn't protest. Below Gazer Aleim, he didn't make any decrees against them. No, Moshe seemed to accept what they said. He accepted what they said as the truth. So that means the Jewish people are living now with an understanding that Moshe is not the one who's going to take them into Eretz Yisrael. Being Cain, that being the case, the Meshech Chochmah continues. Likones ba'eretz mivtsar, to go into a country the way the Meraglim were describing it, so fortified and inhabited by people who were so gigantic. Ulhilochem im Amalek, and to do battle with Amalek again. Asher Kfar Nichshulu Bo, where they already had a debacle with them. And to fight with the giants without Moshe, they came to the decision, the conclusion that what? We'll all die. There's no way we could do it. Without Moshe, we cannot go. That was the mindset of the Jewish people. If we don't have Moshe as our leader, we won't be successful. Well, therefore, what happened? Hishtik Kolev Esa'am. Kolev stepped forward and he quieted the nation. And he said like this, B'mashi yichsu es kol hamofsim. Kolev said to the Jewish people like this, you Jews, you the Jewish people, you are connecting all the miracles that we've been experiencing now throughout our stay here in the Midbar, the Torah, the Man, the Be'er, everything that we're getting over here, you're connecting it to who? You're connecting it to Moshe. You're making the whole religion Moshe. And he said, Adarabba. Kalev told, no, it's the opposite. You're making a mistake. Gedulaso toli bochem. The greatness of Moshe is only a reflection of the Jewish people. Why? He told him, Shekol Zaman Shahayu Nezufim, because we see when the Jewish people, after the Meraglim, are being unaccepted in the Midbar, they're living out their lives, but they're not going in. Lo Nisyachar Adibur LeMoshe. Moshe's status is only a reflection of the Jewish people. Just like we see by Har Sinai. When the Jews did the Egel, what did Hashem tell Moshe? Leichred, you have to go down. If the Jewish people are down, if they're doing the Egel, you have to go down also. Your greatness is only because of your reflection of the Jewish people, Moshe. Your level of Nevuah, just like the Gemara brings down by Hillel, that Hillel was worthy of Nevuah on an enormous level. But the Gemara said the generation wasn't on that level. So if the generation isn't on that level, then Hillel is not going to be given that gift. So Kalev is pointing out to the Jewish people that the greatness of Moshe is merely a reflection of the greatness of the Jewish people. And therefore, Kalev was telling the Jews, Ale na'ale, we can do it on our own. Without Moshe, we're not dependent on Moshe. Ki ein Moshe siba eitzel Hashem hanhoga hanisis. It's not Moshe who's bringing down the miraculous conduct of Hashem. That's not what's bringing Hashem to lead us on such a miraculous level. Rak ha'uma ha'Yisraelis, it's we the Jewish people, ba'atzman our own. Hiruya, that's what's giving us this opportunity for hashgacha of Hashem watching over us. Ki yochol nucha, we can do it. V'ushama, that's why I said v'yaches kolev ha'am. That's why it meant when it said Kalev quieted the people. What do you mean he quieted them? When towards Moshe, it said, Vayahas Kalev Esama El Moshe. He wanted to take the Jewish people that they're attributing everything to Moshe, and he wants to say, no, it's not Moshe. We're not a religion of Moshe. It's a religion of Hashem and Hashem's relationship to us. So lo tidabru, don't say like that. V'lo ya'aleh lavcham sharak b'Moshe toli. It's not the victory and the miracles are not dependent on Moshe. Allah nala, we can do it. And that's what Yeshua said. For Yomer Yeshua, Bezos Tain, I'll prove it to you. That Hashem is with you. Now, it's all a reflection of Hashem. Shlo tadabmu ki Moshe hayibekir b'chem. But who also says it's not Moshe, Raki Elokim, it's Hashem who's living with us. And Moshe is dead already. It's not Moshe, it's going to be Hashem. This is the idea over here. That can change. But Kivin Shehemato, they made a mistake. Shemoshe, they thought that Moshe was the main catalyst. In other words, we have a very important idea over here. There's a fascinating idea. The idea is that Nevuah can change. Nevuah can change. In other words, it's something. So it said over Moshe would die. So what the Meshachach was pointing out over here, he says, a dibur which is not said as a messenger from Hashem, it could have changed. It didn't have to be that way. It didn't have to be that way. But the Jews made a mistake. This is what he says. This is his idea that he brings out all of Chumash. This was a mistake the Jewish people made. That they thought that Moshe is the catalyst for everything. And listen what he says over here. If another generation will come in, in other words, the generation that left from Egypt, they knew Moshe was born. They grew up with Moshe. They saw Moshe as a young boy. This generation that's going to go into Eretz Yisrael now is a new generation. They just experienced Moshe as the one who brought down Torah from Shemayim. He's the one that Hashem speaks to. Moshe Rabbeinu is a walking malach. Moshe Rabbeinu is like a god in their eyes. And this was what Moshe can change. Moshe has total control of everything. And Hashem was afraid that the Jewish people would make a mistake. And therefore, Moshe is not allowed to take the Jews. And that's why Moshe couldn't take the Jews into Eretz Yisrael, because of this mistake. If you're going to attribute everything to Moshe and not to Hashem, so then that would be a terrible, terrible mistake. And this is what Kalev tried to bring into the Jews, not to make that mistake. And this is the idea that that Kalev was trying to do, but the Jews did not accept that. And that's why the older generation could not go into Eretz Yisrael. And that's why ultimately Moshe wasn't able to take them into Eretz Yisrael. And that's why Moshe's grave is never known. No one knows where Moshe is buried, because there was a concern that they would make an idol out of it. This is how the Meshech Chochmah learns. There was a fear that, that's why Moshe always tells them, if you look throughout the Chumash, Moshe tells them, it's because of you I can't go into Eretz Yisrael.
Does anybody hear this? Because it seems that we froze.
I hear you, David.
Okay. Rabbi Sternberg left. Maybe he's going to try to come back, or it's done. I'm not sure. Could be he was getting a phone call or something. Shkoye. All right, it looks like we're done, guys. Have a great day. Yeah, it looks like everyone just left.